The River Seine is a 776-kilometer long river and an important commercial waterway within the Paris Basin in the north of France. In Paris, the river is only 80 feet above sea level, 277 miles from its mouth, making it slow flowing and thus easily navigable. Over 60% of its length can be used by commercial riverboats, and nearly its whole length is available for recreational boating. There are 37 bridges within Paris and dozens more spanning the river outside the city. Hi and welcome back. We've taken a ride out of Paris, the outer skirts of Paris, and now we're at Versailles. So let's go inside and take a look where all the kings and the queens used to live. Come on, let's take a look. The Palace of Versailles, which has been on UNESCO's World Heritage List for 30 years, is one of the most beautiful achievements of 18th century French art. At first, it was just a humble hunting lodge built by Louis XIII. But Louis XIV chose the site to build the palace we know today, the symbol of royal absolutism and embodiment of classical French art. Versailles was a residence of the king and the seat of France's government for 100 years. 3 kings reigned in Versailles between 1643 and 1792. France was Europe's #1 power, with 18 million people united under one king, a booming economy, and a powerful military. Versailles was the cultural heartbeat of Europe. Everybody learned French, French hairstyles, clothes, table manners, music. Art spread across Europe. The palace lost its standing as the official seat of power in 1789, but acquired a new role in the 19th century. It became the Museum of the History of France. In French monarchy, the king was chosen by God. Each day, generally at 10 a.m., the court would attend the king's mass. The king would sit in the royal gallery surrounded by his family. The ladies of the court occupied the side galleries. The king would only go down to the nave for important religious celebrations, during which he received communion, for the order of the Holy Spirit ceremonies, the baptisms and weddings of the children of France. In 1701, Louis XIV moved his bedchamber into the drawing room lying east-west in the palace, facing the rising sun. This chamber became the visible sanctuary of the monarchy. Louis XIV launched here in relative privacy, and the ceremonies of the king's rising and retiring took place every day. It was likewise in this chamber that Louis XIV died on September 1st in 1715, after reigning for 72 years. Adjacent to the king's chamber and opening onto the Hall of Mirrors is the council study. It was created by combining two rooms: the king's study, where Louis XIV held his ministerial council for financial and state matters, and the term study. Here, the queen rendezvoused with her husband. 2 queens died in this room, and 19 princes were born here. At that time, royal babies were delivered in public to prove their blue-bloodedness. The big mahogany chest to the left of the bed held the jewels of Marie Antoinette. In this mint green room, the wife of Louis XV and her friends met. The discussions ranged from politics to gossip, from food to literature. The hall is nearly 250 feet long. 24 gilded candelabras are lining the hall. There are 17 arched mirrors matched by 17 windows. The Grand Gallery, as it was called in the 17th century, served daily as a passageway and a waiting and meeting place. Then it was filled with guests, nobles, and ambassadors dressed in silk and powdered wigs, while the king was sitting at the far end of the room. From the central window of the Hall of Mirrors, the visitor can look down on the garden. In 1661, Louis XIV commissioned the design and laying out of the gardens of Versailles, which, in his view, was just as important as the palace. The laying out of the gardens required enormous work. Vast amounts of earth had to be shifted to lay out the flower beds, the fountains, and the canal. The works were undertaken at the same time as those for the palace and took 40 years to complete. The earth was transported in wheelbarrows. The trees were conveyed by cart from all the provinces of France, and thousands of men, sometimes whole regiments, took part in this vast enterprise. Since 1992, the gardens have been gradually replanted, and after the devastating storm of December 1999, the work speeded up to such an extent that quite a few sections have already been restored to their original appearance.